Hi, welcome to Defying Society and Embracing Faith with Holly and Marisa. This is the podcast where we challenge societal norms and we explore our faith and modern living.
Yeah. So join us as we navigate thought-provoking conversations, personal stories, and, our faith.
Yes.
So,
And our belief system.
Yep.
Okay. So, it's what's going on with you today?
Well, the last couple of days have been kind of intense.
Yeah, with the kids all being home and everything.
Yeah. The weather taking a total shit.
Yeah. So the last time we got on a podcast, we were celebrating our 60-degree weather, and now we have like about 4 inches of snow outside.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to tell you, my mom was asking me, she's like, I'm going through the basement. She's like, do you want any of these like Easter eggs for like outside?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh, those big ones?
Yeah, no.
Like decorative ones?
Yeah, decorative ones. Ones that like you can like hang on the bushes.
Oh,
yeah. Like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then she got me they're really cute. These like little like bunny painted wood things that I can put like on my mantle.
Yeah.
And I haven't put them up yet because I'm just like,
yeah. I really despise holiday decor. I feel bad.
I love like cute like lights and like like Christmas is a whole thing.
Well, yeah.
But
spring is even cheesy to me.
It is cheesy.
No offense to anyone.
I know.
I mean, it kind of sounds.
It sounds bad when we like sit there and make fun of it.
Maybe it's the kind of house you have too, because I mean, I have friends who have like, castles, and yeah. It seems like when they decorate for spring, it's like out of a magazine.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just.
I just don't have it in me. Yeah. So
we're like dollar store budget.
I know. Yeah. Me too.
Not like,
Yeah. But like that, so, I was talking to my husband about it and I'm just like, I just don't know. Like I never grew up in like a Christian household, but we still did Easter.
Yeah.
With like the bunny rabbit and like the Easter baskets.
Right.
And like, I never understood until I was an adult why people celebrated Easter.
Mm-hmm.
And
really?
Yeah.
Wow. So that was like not even.
No. And you know how many families are still doing that? Like people are out there, they still celebrate Easter.
Yeah.
Even though they don't believe in Jesus Christ.
Right.
They don't believe in God. Like they're just.
Yeah, that's interesting. We went to Catholic school. Well, my brother and sister went, I think, through to 8th grade. And I went, or maybe my sister left before that. We moved. So I didn't complete Catholic school. So I went to public school. And I'm like just reflecting that you don't learn about God.
No.
Like we do, because we still like would go to church and then we would take like the PSR classes or whatever. But I didn't even think about that. It is all about the Easter bunnies.
It is all about the Easter bunnies. And that took me down a rabbit hole this morning.
Yeah.
Because I started looking up like the origins of Easter and
why the date changes.
Yeah, that and like, what's like behind like the Easter bunny and the eggs and
Did you see that one meme or the video I sent you where the dude's like, why is Easter in March?
Like he's losing his mind.
He's so cute. I can't. He's like freaking out.
Yeah, so I was looking up that.
My dad is like went to the seminary to be a priest, and he was even like, Easter's in March? Like when we were in Florida, he was so confused by it. I'm like, I know, right? It's like super early.
It is really early. It's called the vernal equinox.
Yeah, so right? That's the spring equinox. So vernal. I never knew that word until recently.
I just learned about it today.
I didn't even think about it. Never thought about spring and fall being an equinox. I always just think about the summer solstice, because it's around like my birthday time or whatever. And then the winter solstice, which is Christmas time or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's like the same thing, I guess. But yeah, I never even thought about the spring and fall.
What's funny is until I started talking to you just like recently about like moons and the festivals and the feasts and all that, like I didn't pay attention to anything that the moon's doing. Like I could have cared less.
Yeah.
And then until Easter.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
And of course, like our solar eclipse.
Right.
But like now I'm just like, what is happening?
Yeah. Even the new year, the technical biblical new year is spring.
You mentioned it's April 9th.
It's April 9th.
The day after the solar eclipse.
That's the new year. So rewind. Okay. My apologies.
That's fine.
I got excited when you said moon.
I know.
You know how I am.
Love them. I can't wrap my head around it. Like you go into like deep holes with the moon and stuff, and I'm just like,
because this morning you're like, dude, Easter.
well, like the whole Ishtar thing. Like,
Yeah, so tell me about it. Because I know Pete's mentioned.
Dude, did you know that she was the mother of Baal?
No.
I read that this
like tell me from the beginning your discoveries, because Peter, in his heated passion for not celebrating holidays, he's like, "Do you know what the eggs mean, Marisa?" And like, whatever. Do the Easter baskets. Like he just gives up. So tell me.
I mean, like, I just feel like there's a whole lot of misjambled information out there that you could like discover, like what I did this morning. Like, it depends on what you believe in and who you believe in. And there's nothing that directly, like, it's all basically speculation because no one just lived any of that, you know? So like, so the pagan origins, the eggs, the goddesses, goddess Ishtar, the bunny rabbit stuff, that was all a thing before Christianity was even a thing. Like they were all doing that during, the spring equinox, the moon, and everything.
Multiple cultures,
various
cultures.
We're doing. There's actually all kinds of different goddesses that they were worshiping. Like there's one from Greek, which is Easter.
So it's all the same.
Yeah, Roman one.
But it's the same one. It's just different names.
Yeah, different names.
So you're saying Easter comes from that Greek, or not Greek, but that pagan
character who is a woman, a goddess. So like in Rome, it was like Sabali. West Africa is Ashanti. Egypt, it's Osiris. Ishtar from Babylonia and Assyria.
Interesting.
And Saraswati in Hindu. Greek was Easter. And it is rooted in the Jewish spring festival called Passover. So
it's rooted in that.
Yeah. Okay. But I was going down a different rabbit hole as far as like why it all started. So in 325 AD, the first Christian church council took it over basically and was like, well, the spring equinox this is how we're going to start celebrating Jesus's resurrection.
They just combined
They just kind of combined.
Like,
which kind of makes me feel like that's what they did for all the holidays that we celebrate as Christians. Like they're just like, oh well, that sounds like a good time to like do it.
Yeah, because it's going to bring in all the Christians.
Yeah,
or all the Jesus believers.
Yeah. So going back to Ishtar, she's a problem.
Okay.
She's like a serious problem. She's the goddess of war and sexual love. And she was always characterized as a young, beautiful, impulsive woman. She was never characterized as a helpmate or a mom.
Okay.
Even though she was mom of Baal.
Yeah, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either until this morning. But I did look it up in several different ways. And I mean, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I found this morning. She was the protector of prostitutes.
What the frick? Yeah. I always just thought it was like fertility, something with fertility.
Well, yeah, it goes. Yeah, but she was the protector of prostitutes, and it was like a cult worship,
like a pimp.
Yeah, it's like culty worship of temple prostitution. And she had the ability to create life and then take it away.
That's disgusting,
right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. So where'd the eggs come from?
The eggs were supposedly like a symbol for her.
Okay.
Like the lion was also a symbol for her, but then
the lion?
Yeah.
Okay.
She was like always like posed next to a lion, but then she was also like an egg was like also like part of her symbol.
Because of fertility, maybe.
Fertility. Yes.
Okay.
Like the lines connecting all of this stuff are very blurry. Okay. And there's a lot of like different opinions about it. But the egg is supposed to also symbol new life and rebirth.
Which then they connect it to Jesus because he, died and then was resurrected and renewed.
Right.
And that's kind of the whole Passover thing too.
Yes. And then I think that the Persians took the eggs and they dyed them in red dye to symbolize the Passover, the blood that Jews would put on the door.
Yeah. Persians did that?
I think so.
Did you ever see the art expo on the Fabergé eggs, like when it was in Cleveland?
No,
Or like,
those are those like intricate,
yeah,
pretty eggs.
yeah.
No, I did not see that.
Okay, I didn't know. Maybe that's also must be along the same lines.
Could
I
be.
was so young when I went there because I was like, oh, it's the coolest thing ever. I think I was my aunt, but now I'm like, I wonder what maybe that all kind of culturally was from something.
And then in my findings this morning too, like I was looking into like the bunny rabbit.
Yeah.
And there's like pictures of the Virgin Mary holding, and like there's always like a white bunny next to her.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And that's supposed to supposedly symbolize her temptation to overcome sexual temptation. But I was confused by that because I'm like, she didn't overcome sexual temptation.
According to who?
I know. According to, I think it was a Roman. I think it was a Roman picture. I didn't write down like who drew the picture.
I associated the bunnies to bunnies being.
So then Caesar actually made it so it was illegal to eat the bunnies like as food. Because he considered them to be of religious significance.
Weird.
Yeah. So then then there was a whole thing like back in like the 1600s with like the witches who would eat like rabbit stew and pies and stuff.
Yeah,
and like
organs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it was just, I don't know, this is like, it goes so back. And then like the thing with the lamb, it's to be related to sacrificial lamb's blood, which is also smeared on the Jewish doorposts. Lambs have always been served as symbols of innocence and renewal. To pagans, lambs are the embodiment of spring's promise for abundance of animals in the late winter and spring. But like,
it's very intermeshed.
Yes. And the thing with the Ishtar, so going back to the Bible, she's mentioned, not sure which scripture she's mentioned in, but there is scripture in Jeremiah where it says in Jeremiah 7:18 regarding God's wrath, children back then were gathering wood, fathers were kindling fire, and women were kneading dough to make cakes for the Queen of Heaven.
Queen of Heaven again.
And pour out drink offerings to other gods to provoke our Lord in anger. So I was looking into the Queen of Heaven, and it's believed to be Ishtar back then. And Ishtar was also somebody who used to sway the Israelites to follow pagan practices.
Interesting.
Which also introduced them to Baal. So
that's wild.
It's just.
So we're all doomed.
I'm just saying, so my husband, I was talking to him about this morning. He's like, I mean, maybe he was getting offended, but he's like, I feel like you're really going to offend other Christians and people of religions who celebrate Easter.
Bunnies and eggs?
But
I'm sorry.
To read this kind of stuff.
Well, maybe it would be, first off, it's impossible not to offend anyone.
Oh, true.
Second of all, if you aren't a Christian and you're listening to this podcast and you're offended because in your culture they use eggs for whatever, then maybe this isn't the podcast for you. So who are we offending?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but I just feel like, why are we scheduling? So when the Christian church decides to schedule our holidays around the pagan stuff, why around the pagan holidays are we doing that?
Well, the thing is in order to schedule Easter, okay, they have to have a definitive point to schedule it around. And it has to match up with the calendar that they've created, which is, we use the Gregorian calendar. Yeah. There's other, did you know, Eastern Orthodox, or Eastern Europe, maybe they use a Julian calendar?
Yeah, because their Easter, the Orthodox uses their Easter is a couple weeks after ours, usually. This
one's really late, May or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but normally they're somewhat close. So there's multiple calendars. Okay, now we use the Gregorian calendar. So the only way they could keep a consistent holiday and it link up with Bible would be to okay, there's the spring equinox that doesn't change, right? I mean, it changes every year, but that's something we can pinpoint and say, this is it. and then it's what, the Sunday after the spring equinox, correct?
It's
or
during the full moon. Or
after full moon, after the spring equinox.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be a Sunday.
Yes.
So that's where we get it. That's where we get the Easter, and that's why it changes. The Bible talks about keeping the feasts
Mm-hmm.
and how important they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks to me, especially because a couple of years ago when I was at the hotel, I just remember the hotel. I lived in the hotel for 3 months, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting down because I really wanted to do a Bible study on Easter because so many of our like Bible study friends were doing the feasts and like the Sabbath or whatever. And I was like, how do you really know when the Sabbath is if our calendars aren't,
Yeah.
So that was like my whole thing.
Yeah.
So
that like tipped it off.
Yeah, that just set me off because I was like, investigation.
Sabbath day.
So it doesn't always link up with the Passover. Like, according to what I'm understanding, it is said that Jesus was having Passover meal with his disciples, which is called something.
Before his crucifixion.
So we got the Passover. And it is said that Jesus's Last Supper was the Passover Seder. That's like the Seder. That's the ritual meal that you would have in the beginning of Passover.
Oh.
So it is said that when he was sitting with his 12 disciples, that was
their meal.
The Passover.
Okay.
The Passover meal. And so then he obviously gets crucified, died, resurrected.
3 days later.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So technically, from what I can see, Passover is this Saturday.
Okay.
Based on biblical calculation and the moon and everything.
Okay.
So we're like, whereas like 2 years ago, it actually matched up.
Yeah.
I think I remember because I was like, okay, well, must be how they get to Easter then.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is not that way this year.
Because of it having to be on a Sunday, or?
I don't know. So I got March 23rd is Passover. March 24th is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Okay.
Okay.
And then March 25th is First Fruits.
Okay.
Which is supposed to be when he presented himself.
Gotcha.
So that's all coming up this weekend, not 2 weeks from now.
Geez.
So yeah, sorry.
So it's just like a whole like so the calendars are just all over the place.
There.
Depending on what calendar you're following.
That's why it's important to know the sun and the moon cycles.
Yeah.
Now, furthermore, with the sun and the moon, they claim that the sun always rises in the east and sets in the west, which it does perfectly twice a year, which is what you were talking about before, which is in the spring.
Yeah.
This year it's March 20th, and in the fall, it's like September something this year.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it will rise extreme northeast and it'll set extreme northwest.
Okay.
In the summer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then in the winter, it would be the furthest southeast. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, it's going in that direction, but it's not. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's why, like, when you're looking even in your yard, sometimes
it's the sun being in a different.
Yeah. Right. It's not as cut and dry as you would think.
A lot of science behind this.
It's a lot of science, and I was always attracted to science.
Yeah.
Subject wise in school, and obviously my degree. When it comes to the calendars, there's the solar, there's the lunar. There, we said we're following the Gregorian. There's the Julian. Do you know of more calendars?
The lunisolar.
Okay, so the lunar solar is what I believe the Bible. It's the most accurate biblical.
Yeah.
Okay, because God said, "You will look to the sun, the moon, and the stars for times and signs and seasons." And when he speaks of seasons, it actually means feasts. So feasts is seasons, and the feasts are how we know where we're at. So that's why, like right now, the season, the way the moon and the sun, the eclipse crossing over, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens depending on what you believe we're living on, as far as whether the earth is going around the sun or
Or
we are stationary and the sun's going around. But,
yeah. Yeah.
depending on what you believe, that's a different podcast. I don't even want to say in order to make the sun and the moon match up, because the solar year is 365.24. The lunar year is 354.37, which means that there's sometimes a 13th month. Okay. I don't want to get all like, so that's called an embolismic year. That's the 13th month. It's actually proven in Ezekiel, like in multiple places in Ezekiel. But what happens is that's when the lunar solar conjunction kind of matters. And that's where when you're following a luni solar calendar, it still perfectly matches up because God knew that those paths were going to cross.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like that there is going to be a 13th month, but it doesn't matter because you're always going to know when things are happening and when the feasts are based on what? The moon. And do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like the calculations from the Sabbath.
So what do you think about people who follow the sun? Like, do you think that's even biblically accurate?
Well, when you follow all the other calendars, you have to remove days and add you have to like change the calendar. You know why they don't use the Julian calendar anymore?
No, why?
Because it was making it was causing such a difference in time.
Yeah.
That they had to like add days back in or some shit to make it all like.
Is that what that wouldn't make sense to me. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
why I have such a hard time following all of it, because I just feel like you know what you know because this is what you grew up on. You grew up on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, through Sunday. You grew up on 12 months a year. And what he wants us to follow versus what we've been told to follow.
Yeah, because I mean, we're living on this world. So if the work week is Monday through Friday, I can't be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Right. He intended for us to live on this planet in a way to where like, we have to operate, right?
It's crazy how much everything's been manipulated.
It's all manipulated, but he's clear about what he says. And, and he tells us that in Genesis, the first chapter you read, the first book you read in the book this is how I'm going to give you signs and seasons and days and years that he tells you, the sun, the moon, and the stars. So if you read and you follow, then you'll know.
Yeah.
And I never thought that the Sabbath or the feasts were a salvation issue, but it is very beautiful to recognize why they're important. For one, it's telling of the time. For two, like for instance, if you compare the Passover, which commemorates the exodus of the Jews from Egypt, okay, and the Last Supper, Passover for Jesus, right? It falls in the spring, but also we know that Jesus, that was also in the spring, right?
Yes.
Jews were freed from slavery, and Christians are freed because of Jesus' resurrection, free of that bondage of sin, right? So it's actually like
a rebirth.
Really a rebirth, right? And it's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right. And then and all the other feasts have different meanings. And even if you think about the Sabbath, okay, because the technical Sabbath, you know how people argue, oh, well, it's Friday sundown to whatever for the Jews, and then like everybody, Christians, it's Sunday or whatever. Yeah. And God says in the commandments to honor the Sabbath, but the Sabbath is 7 days from the new moon. That doesn't mean it's going to be on a Sunday. So if you can follow both calendars, but you need to know that sometimes it might be 4 Tuesdays of the month. Yeah. And the point isn't that you go Old Testament style on the Sabbath. It is that you
are aware.
Rest.
Yeah.
That you are aware. You use that day to honor God by honoring your work that you've done for the last 6 days, right?
Yeah.
And you rest. I don't do this. I've been wanting
to. I mean, like, yeah, it's hard.
But the more I get into it and I like realize, man, if you don't have that day of rest, physically, mentally, and spiritually,
God
will fall apart.
God will make us that you have that day of rest.
Well, yeah.
And if you're trying not of it, it will not be the way you wanted it.
But think about it. If you took everything off your schedule, every 7th day, and you said, I'm not going to get on Instagram. I'm not going to have Vince on the iPad. We're not going to watch TV. We're just going to just do stuff. We're going to lay, read, rest. Maybe resting for you is, organizing your closet. I don't know. That could be your rest,
Mhm.
shutting down the world around you and just doing something that you want to do. Not a chore.
While being set apart or holy,
Right.
right? Because that was a whole thing too that I was just going to talk to you about, not in this podcast, but it's interesting that you say that, because I feel like when you are God's people, you are supposed to be holy, set apart from everyone else, set apart from culture.
Yeah.
And it's going to look weird to anybody who is not holy or set apart or has a relationship with God. And that's the point.
Right. Well, think about how beautiful this would be. On your rest day, you say no to you give God that day, and then you say, I'm not going to take on any clients today. Okay. I'm going to say no. And I have faith that the Lord will provide. I'm taking the day off. Okay. The Lord's going to provide for me. I'm not going to take. And in that day, Marisa's going to come over and she'll bring the kids, and we're going to go in the garden and we're going to like plant that stuff we said. And we're just going to listen to some good music. And we're just going to spend time. We're going to shut our phones off.
Yeah.
Right.
Be away from the
We're
world.
going to be away, whatever. And we're just going to talk about God. We're going to teach the kids about, have a lesson that day. Now, is it realistic to say for 12 hours straight we're doing that? No, but the point is,
you're honoring God.
You're honoring God by doing those things.
Yeah.
Because he knows it's not realistic that you live every single day, Monday through Friday like that. God's not asking you to do that. He's saying, do your thing. Okay. Work. I mean, we still pray, we, honor God during the week, but then take that day.
Yeah.
And I need you to rest. I need you to have faith. I need you to focus on, all the things that are good.
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
Is that
it's
hard?
Not hard
it's not hard.
I know it's
not.
It's
actually so beautiful. So wouldn't that be great?
God will lead.
Yeah. So I mean, and I guess my whole tangent purpose too about the calendar is, well, the purpose of this time of year, right? How beautiful it is that he tells us the time that this happened by what? The sun, the moon, the stars. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And just all this correlation between this upcoming big event with the, eclipse, and like, how cool, like that if it is a sign, like
we'd be ready.
Yeah.
We'd be ready for it.
Yeah.
It's
conversation.
Yes. And I feel like we don't have enough of these conversations during our normal day-to-day. And I just feel like I'm glad that we're putting this out there. Just I'm not even trying to like convict anybody with celebrating Easter. I'm not trying to say like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Like, that's not a sin issue. It's just being aware of what we're celebrating, what we consider to be rebirth, and what your day of God looks like.
Well, Peter had to do little Peter had to do this cross project for school, which I failed and didn't get it. No, but we turned it in today, but it was due on a Monday, which nothing should be doing.
No.
Not with little kids. It's a cross, and the assignment was have your kid cut out the cross, decorate it, and put a religious tradition. And I'm like, we don't really have any and I'm like, religious tradition. Everyone does the non-religious tradition things, right? And I don't know if a lot of people eat lamb, but like Italians eat lamb. Okay. So I was like, well, we eat lamb every year. I'm like, do you want to put a little lamb on there? And he's like, oh, lamb, so, but then he drew a lamb and put little cotton balls. And then, I said, let's put Passover lamb. And I wanted to put Jesus is a Passover.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was like, no, just, he's like, that's enough words, Mom, for his little brain. So with little gold stickers, we put Passover lamb.
Yeah.
And was it a religious tradition? I don't know how you would put your family's religious tradition on the cross, but I thought, isn't that a nice way to because it's going to go up in the hallway?
Yeah.
That someone could look at it and be like, oh, geez,
Yeah.
Jesus is the Passover lamb,
right?
The sacrificial lamb.
Right.
And that's just a beautiful way to put it out there. So
and not a bunny rabbit.
Yeah. And it's it's not all bad, but I feel bad that growing up, you didn't.
No, I had no idea.
Have any, and I didn't realize that if you didn't really grow up.
You don't go, if you don't have any kind of God influence in your life, if you're going to public school.
Right.
I grew up in public school. I had no idea.
Yeah.
No clue. I thought it was the Easter bunny. I knew, and then like
whatever.
I mean, like not stupid, like in high school.
And we all loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you grew up in religion or not.
I just get so weird about it now. Like now that I know, now I'm like, well, this is kind of stupid.
I know.
Now that I know.
Luckily for me, Pete's not from this country, and he is so annoyed with all the things.
Because I mean, but like technically, like pagan, everything goes. It's. I mean, like even the days of our week,
right,
are pagan.
Right. Exactly.
You know, our wedding bands are pagan.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just
if you would have to really strip yourself down to the bare bones, and you know what, and maybe that's what God wants. But I think the best start is to just honor Him, like literally.
I just think it's all about intention. It's definitely a conviction issue for me, but I just feel like it's all about your intention and what you're doing with your family and how you are honoring God. Like my son will at least know who Jesus is, and why he was resurrected. And
just a side note, from the health side of things, I freaking hate the candy. On every single thing that's out there, we have to deal with the expectation of all this junk food, excessive eating, candy, sugar, and it's all so bad.
I know the color dyes.
Here I am, but here I am trying. Like I don't even want to do any of this stuff, and on top of it, you want my kid to eat what? Like I absolutely despise it.
I know.
So I'm just like, ugh, what a drag. More so, I think probably part of my problem is that part.
The food part. My son is only 4, and this will be his first year in preschool, bringing home and so far everything that he's brought home has been like every single birthday, little Valentine's. I'm like having to sit there and weed through it, and I'm like, all right, you can pick one thing out of here, and it's just like between all the food dyes and the sugars and the processed crap, and it's just can't.
It's bad.
Yeah.
So. All right. Hopefully we inspired some people to do a little bit of reading, dig deeper into some things. Yeah. And, obviously, like we always say, if you're interested in anything or any resources, any information, let us know so we can either put it out there on social media or.
We are on Facebook and Instagram, and you can find all of our podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, and we are now all set on Rumble. I am working on Apple currently. So please,
she's on it.
Yeah. Like, comment, share, give us some kind of feedback, tell your friends if you like what you're listening to.
Sure.
Yeah. Or give us negative feedback.
Yeah. We like trolls.
Yeah. I'm actually noticing that we are getting a lot of trolls.
That means you're really making it.
So that means that we are really pissing some people off out there, which just means that we're doing our job. Yeah. So yeah. All right, you guys, have a good day.